Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. Dani Katz is here with me, and she is suitably pissed. Wait, do I have my thing plugged in? Yeah, she is suitably pissed because they have weaponized the customer service experience, and she's going to tell us all about it. This is words number 62. Dani, how are you?
I'm pissed.
Yes. All right.
I mean, it worked out hard, so.
Something's funny with my microphone. Do I sound it like, okay, hold on a second. Let me fix this. Why is it not going in the Yeti thing? Okay, this is weird. It's like.
Is it your preferences? Do we need to pause?
Hold on.
This can't be interesting for our brilliant audience.
Okay, hold on, just 1 second. We're good. So sorry about that. All right, lay it on us. What happened, Dani?
Okay. Well, it's not just a singular incident, though. This morning was it was like a Dorothy Parker, what fresh hell is this kind of morning. But I mean, there's so many different layers. So I'll talk about what happened today, but when we're talking about the weaponization of customer service, I do feel like it's important to speak to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all these places that have the bulk of the world utilizing them, and they have no customer service options. You cannot contact a person, and this is now like an established and A-OK paradigm of doing business.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make sense? These arguably have the most customers of any corporation on the planet. They also have the most resources, and they can't get it together to give us some customer service. I was just charged. This has nothing to do with today, but I paid $20 for an ad on Instagram for my webinar that no one saw because I'm shadow banned. Oh, wow. And I've been asking for my money back. And of course, no one's getting back to me. It's just like, it's a crazy making endeavor. And I feel like it's proof that it's completely demonic, and it's all about louche collection. And I feel like it's the way that the AI, like for me personally, I set up my whole life very deliberately and consciously to avoid as much red tape and bureaucracy as possible. I don't like signing my name on things. I don't like clicking things. I don't like two-factor authentication. I don't want to talk to I don't want anything to do with it. So I feel like it's a way to suck people in and then fuck with them, and God knows what's coming through the frequencies, because I'm on hold for so often with people who I know they're hiring deliberately because they're stupid, but because they're simple, because they're not acting with any agency. So if there's not a button that tells them how to do it, then it's not a possibility. Right? Like when you go to order something at the coffee house and the chick can't find the button. They do this at Erewhon all the time. Well, there's no button, so I can't do that. It's like you have every ingredient right here. Can you think outside of your buttons? No, I can't do that. Right. So like, this is the general paradigm of annoyance. And then, so this morning I woke up to, I just did a cursory glance at email because I was looking for something specific, and then I was going to go into my writing, but I saw there was a new PayPal user agreement. And I'm like, I do need to check out, because so many traps and handcuffs are coming through these. So now the new PayPal thing, and it required a phone call and me like figuring out, well, how do I troubleshoot this? If you have a business account, you no longer can receive money from a personal account. And if you have a personal account, you can no longer send money to a business account. Does that make sense?
So if you have a business account on PayPal.
So like today you sent me our donations. Right. That's not going to work anymore if you're not operating from a business account. I have to set up a separate account. It's just like, again, it's just like a dumb, another fucking matrix.
Dumb thing. Yeah.
It's another matrix thing. So then I got my phone bill and I'm on automatic payment, but I look. And this has happened the past 3 months where they just keep charging me more and more and more and saying like price adjustment for new rate. So, I mean,
for your cell phone bill.
For my cell phone bill.
Okay.
So super long story short, I've changed my plan 3 times in the last month because they said that my plan doesn't exist anymore and it has to be this higher price plan. So then I switched to that plan and I try to use my phone as a hotspot, but that's no longer included in the new plan that they keep moving me to. And everyone's so sorry and everyone respects my business, but there's nothing they can do. They can't do anything. They can't do anything. So again, my bill is higher, and it's like 3 different people. I'm waiting. I'm like being bathed in the frequencies. I'm aware of the loosh being, do you know what I'm saying? And I'm also aware of the writing that I'm not doing, the 9 trillion things that I'm not doing for them to say, no, 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 no. And I'm like beating my head against the wall. And then after the 3rd person, where I'm like, I need to speak to a customer loyalty supervisor. And this has never happened. So it was like literally an hour. And the 4th person I talked to, and she's like very young, right? Very young, very like kind of over the top with sweetness, but she actually got it. And she's like, you're totally right. Let me just put you back on your original plan at your original rate and give you a credit. And I'm so sorry that this happened. So I actually triumphed, which it was shocking. But the amount of energy that it took, and I'm like, this is for sure an op. That's what I got.
Okay. So yeah, I've had a lot. So a couple of things. You hit on a lot of things there with the PayPal and the cell phones and everything. And I too have like very little patience for that stuff. And like a lot of people will say like, you know, that it's an Emily problem, right? Like that I should just learn to calm down and learn to, you know, this is just how it is and blah, 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 blah. And like, if it were a real thing, I would agree, right? Like if it were like an actual thing that actually mattered in like in a live kind of setting, I do agree. I need to develop patience. I need to develop better sensitivity to other people's feelings and needs and stuff like that. I'm far from a perfect person. But like this thing that you're talking about, whether it be the PayPal thing or the cell phone thing, is stupid, right? And I am like more inclined at this point, just like to not deal with it and to like to go away, right? So I got into something when I was in Los Angeles with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, right? And I rented a car when Laura and I went to Mexico, and then we went to San Diego. And then we went to LA, and we rented a car in San Diego to drive to and we drove to LA, and we kept it and we returned it to a place there. Right. And so I made the reservation online, and they never tell you anything really about their rules or anything when you make the reservation online. They just accept the reservation. So I go there, and I go in and I give them my card, and they won't take the card because the chip isn't working. Right. And so fortunately,
you can't type in the numbers.
Correct. Fortunately, I had another credit card, right? Like I have this other credit card that I was in a rush. I was in a time crunch because I needed to pick up the car and get back and pick up Laura before we had to check out of the hotel, which was getting close in time. So rather than argue that with her, I just said, okay, I'll use this other card. I have this other credit card that like I've had for like a really long time that I share with my dad. And I was like, I'm just going to use that and I'll just pay my dad. Like, it's fine. Right. I don't have time. But she said, oh, it's good you had that other card because we have to have the chip. But I thought they always say shit like that. Right. So I rent the car. I have the car for a week. I return it to a place. Right. Everything's fine. No problem. I'm not having a car for several days because I don't need it. And then I go back to a different Enterprise because I found out that there was one closer to my house there. So I go back to the Enterprise just to rent the car for the day, right? And I give them my card, same thing. We can't take it if the chip doesn't work. This time I couldn't use the card of my dad. Like I gave them that card, but like it wasn't working, right? And so it's like I couldn't use that one. I was like, okay. I was like, can we call the bank? Can I pay with a debit card? Can I pay cash? Da, da, da. No, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry. We require the chip to protect you. And I'm like, you can look at my history. I've been renting with you guys forever. I just rented last week. They're like, yeah, but that card that you used last week, it doesn't work now. I'm like, look, you can see on it. I share it with my dad. I used it last week because of this thing. And for some, he's not well. I'm not going to go, right? Like I can pay you this otherwise, but why can't you just call the bank and verify information? And they won't do anything. They won't let you talk to a manager. They won't call someone else up at corporate, nothing like that. And I was getting fucking pissed. And at a certain point, I was just like, okay, this is not happening. I'm not getting a car. I don't have time. He said, if you go to the airport, they'll do it for you there. I'm like, I don't have time to fucking go to the airport. I'm just like, I'm letting it go. Right. Like I got on and I called Enterprise Corporate and I said something to them and they said, this isn't right. We'll call you back in 5 minutes. They never called. I'm still waiting for that phone call back. But I just had the clarity that like, I needed to just let it go. Our system is so crazed right now that two things happen. To the extent that it's real, the loosh thing you're talking about, like this generates like a lot of and energy and all that kind of stuff. And there's a flip side to everything. And like, maybe I was not supposed to be in the car that day. Like I ended up staying the whole day at home, not leaving the house, not going anywhere. I did go out somewhere for dinner and took an Uber. I'm like, I don't know that I didn't just possibly like miss a car accident or anything like that, right? Like when there's that much resistance lately, I've been sometimes just like at a certain point retreating. Like I could have gone and tried to fight some more and whatever. I retreated. The next day, my flight got delayed like 11 hours and it turned out the original airplane I was supposed to be on was broken, right? And I was annoyed, it was 11 hours. But sometimes I feel like some of this resistance that comes up in some cases, I'm not saying the case with your phone, but in that case for me, it was like, I just had to relax and allow. And eventually I got home and everything got done and everything was fine. And I had just decided at a certain point to stop arguing with people and not waste any more time doing that, right? But what you're talking about, like with the phones and all this kind of stuff, like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm considering dropping the phone. Right. So when I do Sober October this year, I'm thinking about including the phone as part of the detox. So when I do Sober October, it's no alcohol and like my most base, completely clean eating diet that is like pretty boring, but I always feel amazing after 30 days of that. Right. And I think I'm going to use the phone. I'm going to do the phone on that because I can do everything I need to do from my computer. Right. But the only thing I don't do with my computer is take it with me everywhere I go.
Why October for your sober stint?
Because like, it's really hard for me to try and do that in the summer because like the lure of patios when it's so nice and warm outside and margaritas and all of that kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of traveling in the summer and whatnot. And then that's usually over by the end of the summer. And I'm like feeling pretty disgusting, right?
That makes sense. What came up when you were saying that is I know that that's when Rogan does his
Correct.
sobriety thing and everyone ancillary. And I'm like, okay, so now they're like creating this kind of biorhythm,
right?
They're socially engineering this biorhythm when everyone who's tuning in to this frequency band of information is sober. Like, what's going on with that?
All right. So that's like, of course I've heard him say that and I like the way it rhymes. And it's not like I didn't take 30-day periods of doing that stuff before, right? But it so happened that became like 2 years in a row. It turned out to be a good time to do it, right? And so like we just Sober October. But last year, and it will likely be this again this year, like our Sober October really didn't start till October 15th and ended at November 15th. So we created—
That's smart. Yeah, I would stack it like
disruptive rhythm. Like, but there's part of me like, and this is one of the things, like a lot of the ideas that a lot of these people have, like, are good. And so just going like, I'm not going to do something because they're doing it, right? Like that doesn't—
it's not that, it's about syncing up with their exact rhythm.
Yes.
That was it.
So yeah, so we did ours for like, it's always a little bit off because we like to start on a Monday. It's like hard to start like your diet or your not drinking or whatever thing like on Saturday or something. But if you start on Monday, by the weekend, you're used to it and you can get over it faster and whatever, right? But I'm going to include the phone this time, I think, because you can do like everything. You can talk to people on FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, but I do not take my computer with me anywhere other than the office ever. Right. And I am complete of the, I don't want to say 100% belief. Oh yeah, it is 100%. It's just the level I'm not sure about. That we're already in the metaverse. Like this idea that it's coming is like, and that when it comes, it will be something that like you enter into or you put on your goggles to experience or whatever, keeps people from recognizing that it's happening all around them. And so it's just like, to the level that we're in that I'm unclear about and for how long it's been going on, I think possibly forever on some certain level, right? So I'm really curious to know how my like day-to-day life changes from not like from not having my phone with me, not just because I obviously won't be like listening to videos or being able to be texting or calling everywhere I go, but how much information is my phone picking up from me outside of my awareness, and what is it feeding back to me? Like if all of a sudden with not having my phone with me, I see half as many people on the trail, like then I have some idea that like, okay, the information collected from me on the phone is part of projecting something at me, like the holographic reality, right? Like, am I suddenly like sleeping better at night? Am I in a better mood? Like, I want to know how many things in my life are being affected, and not just the part about like being constantly in touch with people or constantly listening to media. What else are those vibrations doing? Right.
I'm open to timing something similar with myself, with you, because that experiment, that piece of it sounds interesting. And I also think like when you're not using your phone, have it in a Faraday case, have it in your microwave, like minimize the amount of access it has to us when we're not choosing to engage it.
100%. And also like for my own self, and like discipline about doing it or not doing it. If I know it's in my purse, I'm going to take it out and use it. Right. And I'm wanting like even if it's in the Faraday cage and wrapped up. So
I don't take mine out in public. Like that's a hard rule. Like if I'm out in the world, my phone is in my glove compartment or it's at home. It's never with me as I'm moving through the world. So I think that's really important for when places want to use QR codes and stuff for the like, no, it's not even an option. I don't have it. I'm not doing that. Yeah. And I think there needs to be a good chunk of us in society who are not bringing our phones with us everywhere.
Correct. Right. And for me, like I'm much more attached to the phone than I am to the computer. So for me, putting it away in the safe, like not taking it out at all for 30 days, like, and if there's some place that I can't go there unless I have a phone QR code, I guess I'm not going for that 30 days. And then after that 30 days, maybe I'll decide that I'm leaving my phone home most of the time, except for when I absolutely need it for something. But for that 30 days, I want to see how, like, because I resisted the cell phone a lot longer. Well, I had a cell phone much earlier than other people. Like I had one of those like big bricks, like in 1991 or 92 that cost like $10 a minute. Right. I did have that for a bit. And then because I was because I was working I was babysitting for a family, and I was taking their kids a lot of places, and they, you know, I think they may have even been paying for it. Right. But it was basically like to be able to get in touch with me, whatever. Right. It was like, it was not for like having lots of conversations on per se. Right. But then I got rid of that. And then I didn't have a cell phone again. I didn't have a cell phone until I think 2004. Like after that, right? I resisted it for a long time because I saw people not able to fully engage in whatever they were doing, because there was not even text messages really at that point, but people would call and then they'd go off and do something else. And
it was just like the novelty of having it that people like overused it.
Correct. Right. It didn't even do as many things as the thing does now. So, but like
I'm getting something to show you, but I'm listening.
So I resisted it, and like, I enjoyed that. Like I recognized that like I was like, one of the things I hate more than anything is going into a party with my phone, because I can't dance well when my phone's in my pocket. But every once in a while you need to, because the ticket is on your phone, or because you're meeting somebody, you're trying to arrange something with somebody. And, you know, some parties, once you go in, you can't go back out. So I couldn't like go back out later and check my phone. Right? So every once in a while I have to go in, and I just don't enjoy it. Right. Like I liked my life better on a lot of levels when I didn't have it. So I'm really considered, let's flip this. I can't see.
Can you see? I know, because of the thing. So I just got this old iPod so that like you, I could run and have music, because music is really why I'm dependent on my phone more so than I want to be. So I'm like, let me just get a music thing, and it doesn't have Wi-Fi. It's not tracking me.
Yeah. So I'm thinking for my 30 days, because I listen to stuff all the time, and I don't mostly listen to music. I mostly listen to information. I want to see what it's going to be like to exercise without listening to anything, just to go out there and just be. So for my 30 days, I'm not going to do that. But I think after the 30 days, if I have liked this experiment, then I'm going to limit the use of the phone, like I told you, and acquire some older tech, whether it be that or or you can, use a cell phone that is not connected, that isn't like, doesn't have any SIM or anything like that. And just
I have one of those too, but if it's Wi-Fi, this is where I have Instagram, but if it's Wi-Fi, it's still tracking. I think it's still tracking.
maybe not. I don't know. Well, I'll start to figure some of that stuff out. Right. But I think I'm going to try that because I don't like, I think that there's a lot of things that we have been convinced we need, like PayPal, like these cell phones that have all of these things that we don't actually, not only do we not actually need them, but like we are not recognizing the level to which they are changing our lives. We recognize the obvious things and then some of the like semi or sub-obvious things, but like there's this whole other set of things that we don't really understand at all. Even those of us who are very like suspicious. And I want to check. And if I can't make it through 30 days without looking at my phone, then I need to go to rehab or something.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. But I also want to say like, it's not black or white. Like there's obviously benefits to some of these things. And like you, I choose my battles, like I had a thing with my online Pilates thing and I'm just like, just cancel it. Like, I don't like not, fewer and fewer things. Cause yes, it's a tool for growth. It's a way that I can see myself and where I still need to, regulate my emotions and all those things. And I have made great strides. Apple Care used to be my biggest trigger around it. So it's like, choose our battles. But when it comes to PayPal, and I know how horrible their user agreements are, and I know how they're screwing over independent journalists and content creators left and right. And in my own lived experience, their customer service humans are so nice.
I've never
get it. Go above and beyond. Like, so, and this is what I'm talking about, the weaponization of customer service and how it's happening on so many different dimensions. So for as evil as PayPal is, whenever I've had an issue or a question, they have my back. So when I've had money stolen, when my identity was stolen, like no matter what it is, the humans who I get to talk to on customer service, not get to, it shouldn't be a fucking privilege, but like they're better than most.
They have humans, like they have humans that you can talk to. So that's already a few points for them. I don't think I've ever had a problem with PayPal. I think I've had to ask for my money back, like file a thing, like I'm wanting my money back from someone, but it always happens. So I never have to call. Right. So I can't speak to that, but to your point about this business model that we have been somehow forced into and then told that we've accepted it somehow or whatever, that you can't ever talk to a person. I think the first company I ever heard that did that was YouTube, right? That was the first big company where I started to hear like, there's no phone number. You can't find a phone number to talk to a person. And then at a certain point, Facebook removed theirs and Google removed theirs and whatnot. And like
Instagram, Twitter.
And it's now
you have the whole crypto realm.
Right. And then actually, like, I think we've gotten calls back from someone at Exodus Wallet before, like that was in a reasonable amount of time, or at least an email from them back, really reasonably amount, and whatever.
I still haven't heard back from Jax, and it was their glitch that allowed me to be hacked and lose 100% of my Bitcoin. And now what is it, 2-3 months later? I still have never heard
back
an email, nothing,
right?
Nothing.
Yeah. And just like, I'm still waiting for the thing from Enterprise, which is like kind of, that's a company that you think.
They wouldn't let you pay cash?
They wouldn't let me pay cash. They wouldn't let me use like my bank card. I said, look, I'll show you the balance in there, right? Like they wouldn't let me do that. Nothing. They basically said, no, if you don't have a credit card that has a working chip in it, right? Then we are not going to rent to you.
Then this is a boycott Enterprise situation. We need to strong arm them into, this is insane that we can't sign on to this.
So the problem with that is like all of the other car rental agencies are even more insane, right? You hear about the thing that like happened with Hertz, where like they were basically filing fraudulent charges on all of their renters. Like let's say if you rented the car and you said, I'm going to rent it from Tuesday to Tuesday. right? But then you didn't return it till Wednesday and you paid for it. Like you were a day late, but you paid for it and you signed it, you left there, everything, you returned the keys, they're all good, right? They were filing charges. And like 2 years later, when somebody would get pulled over, there's a warrant out on your arrest. And it would be that they didn't like that they had that, right? That they didn't.
For a stolen car?
Yes. Even though you had returned the car because you didn't return it at the time. So they ended up losing a class action lawsuit. And I don't know if they're still doing it anymore. But
you would think that whatever police department was getting these reports, that they would have pushed back. Do you know what I'm saying? And said, don't waste our time with, you know, with a fine print issue that's not really criminal. Like, is anyone in the system not a total fucking scumbag? Right.
Okay. So what was I going to say? Oh, so the not having phone numbers. This has gone over to restaurants now as well. There are restaurants that either don't have a phone number or don't answer it. No matter when you call, it just goes right to voicemail and they don't call you. It says the voicemail is full or the voicemail is not set up, or they never call you back. Right. So like a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, right, we ordered food online from this burger place that we like downtown. Right. And it takes my order, takes the payment, sends me the thing saying, you know, order has been received. They didn't send me one yet saying like that it was ready, but it said it had been received. And because it's a little ways away and there's a parking situation to get there, we left right away. Right. I get there, we park the car, Laura stays in the car, I go inside. There's no one there. It's like 5 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. Right. And you know, the hours say that they're open then. There's nobody there at all. So I go and look for the phone number. There's no phone number, right? There's no phone number and no anything. And like the next day they did return my money, but they didn't respond to any of the emails I sent them, any of the messages I left on their Yelp account or anything like that. Like this is lots of businesses, no phone calls anymore. People don't want to talk on the phone. They want everything to be done through the app or through email. And it's just like, there is that quality of what you're talking about, that when you finally got to the last girl and she's like they want to remove that. They want everything just to be a systems kind of thing, right? Like the system, like the whatever their system is determines those things, right?
So it's really weird because as I was going through, like I said, it took over an hour and I'm not writing, I'm not doing anything that I was going to do this morning. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, what is the purpose of this? When she gave me resolution, I realized no part of me thought that was going to happen.
Right.
You know, and that's why I'm still processing, like, why did that happen? And then it had a happy ending. Is it like telling me like, don't give up on this ridiculous? Like, I don't know. Cause I really, it's been so long since there's been like a sane, integrous customer service agent to actually treat me like a customer that they value and respect. It's like they're wanting to beat us out of that and like drive us into getting used to being treated like shit and have that be the new baseline.
Yeah. It's a good, but I would say I've had some of the same things. I've had these horrible experiences. And then I've had experiences that were like unexpectedly nice and kind, where I didn't even realize there's a problem yet. And they came to me like, hey, we fucked this up and we're so sorry, blah, blah, blah. We're just like the other day, like we were at some place getting some lunch and whatever. And the guy took our order and then forgot to hit send. And it hadn't been that long. Like it'd been maybe 10 minutes since we ordered, right? And he came over and he's like, I totally forgot to hit send. I'm so sorry about it a little bit. And it was like, okay, whatever. It wasn't a big deal, right? But when we got to the register, like he'd given us like a really big discount and whatever, even though that hadn't, right? So it's a 50-50 kind of thing. But I think that like part of the reason that we have become like, how many times have you called somebody and they don't answer the phone, but they just text you? Like, and I don't mean text like I'm busy, I'm going to call you in a few minutes or whatever. I mean, you're calling and they just text back. Like, and if they don't want to talk on, it's one thing if you're in a meeting, I'll call you later, or I can't talk right now. I can text right now because I'm in a meeting. If you want to talk to me, I'll call you. No, they don't want to talk. I know people who will never answer their phone. They'll only text, right? And this is part of what has become acceptable because we run around with our phones all the time. Well, we had a phone at the house and you could only talk to someone on the phone when they were at their house and you were at your house all the phone conversations were word to word. And so there was a context and there was, nuance and all of that kind of stuff. And this other thing that we've been doing it's connected, right? It's completely connected. And I'm starting to think that like I'm not for rejecting technology in general. I'm for rejecting technology that is not harmonious with the previous existing systems that have been around for a long time and that work and that don't break down, that don't have this breakdown of communication. Right. And this was part of, I told you, I talked to you after my mushroom trip the other night, and the whole like theme of the whole thing was about like systemic intelligence and intelligent systems and showing me like, no, you don't need to reject all the technologies, right? Like these are the questions you need to ask yourself when you're deciding like, is this for me or is this not for me? Right. And that was the crux of it.
And because necessity is the mother of invention. So whenever I, get into places where I'll notice some like fear or anxiety for where we're going. And when it's like, well, when I'm not going to have this system, or I'm not going to be able to use this service or this or this or this. And then I relax into like, we'll create solutions. Yeah. So I feel like there's a huge hole in every single marketplace now for businesses that still honor customer service. Like, as you're talking about the rental car industry, like if someone wants to start a rental car industry that honors human connection and is dealing with people from a sane place, not these insane rules. And I think in every industry, like there's a space for those to emerge as front runners, because I know for me, I would pay more. Like I would leave AT&T right now if I knew that there was another place that wasn't going to screw me, that wasn't going to change the terms, that wasn't going to tack on access fee. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, how about that wasn't going to share our information or share our data, right? I'd be willing to pay double, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's this whole realm of like the honoring of humanity where I'm excited to just see more businesses start to emerge.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And I think that it's, very, like I obviously have to use PayPal for some things, but I don't have to, but it's still more convenient for me to use PayPal for some things. But there's some things I'm not using PayPal for anymore because of some of the things that they've done with content creators and whatnot, right? And because of that, I'm having to wait longer to get my money sometimes and having to think hard about how I'm going to move money around that makes sense so that everyone can still get what they need and whatever. But I'm not willing to let them, like when we keep our money on their platform, right? They're making
it. Take it out quickly. You got to take it out quickly because they could take it.
Well, but even let's forget about that. Let's just let's say that we're not doing anything that would put our money in danger, right? But
right.
They're still like, it's just like everything else. The longer it's sitting there on their platform, they are earning interest on it, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they're earning interest on it, and like that's not cool. And so it's like with some of these systems, it's like, okay, we don't have a smooth thing that works as well or better yet, but like let's not make it easy for them or make it more beneficial for them to be the way that they're being, right? And just being, even if it means we have to think ahead about how we're going to move things around and plan and whatnot. But yeah, I don't, the no person to talk to thing, that's a real buzzkill for me. I just don't like that at all.
That's such a buzzkill for me. And I actually made a video about, go ahead.
There's one more thing. What you're saying?
Well, I was going to say, because I do still have some social media friends who are tolerating me on social media, whether they're still my friends in real life because of the engineered divide or, me being a radical Nazi or whatever it is, that has yet to be seen. But there's still people, who were friends who are in my social media feeds. And I presented to them look, regardless of your politics or your ideology, don't you agree that this is an egregious business model? Isn't this something that we could at least unify around, that no customer service for these companies that have the bulk of the world as their customers is a problem? Like when my propaganda book came out And I posted, all of my, everything I post is my handwriting. So it's like, unless they're training the AI on my specific handwriting, it's odd that anything would be flagged unless it was reported. But so Mickey wrote me a blurb about my book. This is a great book. Dani Katz clearly knows a lot about how the world works, blah, 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 blah. Mickey Willis. That got flagged for COVID misinformation. So obviously that's a mistake, right? Whatever flags they have on my account, whether it's on Mickey's name, which was handwritten, if it's on my handwriting, like God knows, but they made a mistake. There's no one, of course I did mess it because I got a strike for it and it was taken down. So I let them know, hey, you guys made a mistake. Like no one, there's no one. And it was crickets from, the people who are aligned with a different narrative. They don't seem to have a problem with it, which I don't understand.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is with these businesses, like who say you broke the rules, but won't tell you what you said that broke the rules.
Right.
These are things that we should all like. I think that there's a mind controlled middle that is just lost to anything. But this is where I find it really sometimes there's definitely people on the far left who are anti-war and anti-imperialist that get censored a lot, right? But I always feel mixed feelings about many of them because they never stand up for people on the right or conspiracy theorists, but then they whine when they get dismissed. So there's a few that comment on the fact that others do too. And that's okay, cool. But there should be that union of this is bullshit. We're and not accepting it and making videos together where you're explaining to each other what happened so people can see, because I do think that there are people on the far left who really think that it's a conspiracy theory that people on the far right get censored or whatever, and that really it's only that way. And same thing on the far right, they think the left gets away, right? So it's misinformation everywhere. But I think that this thing about we have these rules and we just tell you broke our rules and we don't have to say exactly what it was that you said, especially on platforms that you pay for, right? So when I had my thing happen at Vimeo, their whole thing is you violated our thing. And I'm since I pay for this service, could you tell me exactly what I said? And they wouldn't do that. And they also say, it also says under their rules that it could have been it's possible it was picked up by an algorithm or it could have been reported, but we don't have to tell you which. And saying that, well, other people say it isn't an excuse. Okay.
Wait, let me ask, were they engaging you in a back and forth?
They were sending me, they were mostly sending me because it was they would highlight a section and show me that. They would highlight a section of their rules and, so there might be some little part that was a person and that, whatever. And there was, they invited me to email them back or or whatever. Right. But if I'm paying and you're not willing to tell me what it is I said, and you're not willing to tell me whether it was an algorithmic pickup or whether someone reported me. I'm not asking you to tell me who reported me because I understand that the companies don't want to get involved with that, right? Then what that tells me is that there is no algorithm and that it's only people reporting. They don't have, they try to make it sometimes we just do individual reviews based on report. No, it's basically all reporting and they don't want anyone to know that. They don't want to create a huge problem for themselves by taking everyone's content down, right? And that's why they say saying somebody else said it is not an excuse.
But it's not like anyone who's paying for your content that would be navigate them over to Vimeo would report you.
Correct. So but obviously somebody was.
No, see, I don't agree with that. I think that there's some people they're told to surveil, or it might be a random surveil. The NSA is we need you to do a forensic audit of Emily Moyer's Vimeo channel.
Okay, but that's still somebody reporting me. That isn't an algorithm picking it up, right? So the point with that is that if you're paying for a service and there's these, they're not going to tell you if it was an algorithm or if it was someone reporting or whatever. I don't understand why they can't just say it was this sentence right here.
I feel they're legally that they have to.
Okay.
And that it's very like, we need to start, and I'm not litigious and I don't personally want to waste the time, but none of us are. So there's no recourse for them.
And they know that.
Shit.
And they know that, right? And so like I had several rounds of back and forth with them, and I didn't talk on the phone. I didn't try calling or ask for a phone call because I was getting pretty quick responses on email that I, more like it was quicker than like Patreon or any of these other things. They were saying that. So first I asked for my money back because they took my channel down. Right. And I had paid for the full year. I asked for my money back and they said their rules say that they don't have to give the money back for this and that. And then,
Is that true? Did you double check that? I
didn't double check it. Right. No, they highlight their rules and send it back to you, but I didn't go look separately from where it was highlighted. And then they told me, the thing about they don't have to tell me. I was like, okay, well, since I'm paying, then please tell me what it was I said. And they won't do that. But then I said, okay, well, some of there are some things on there that I need to get back, that I need to download. Right. And they were, okay. They really quickly sent me over like this big spreadsheet that has everything I ever put on over there and that had download buttons next to all of it. And they're like, you have 7 days to download all this. And they were very nice. Like literally, even when they said like it was weird. Like it almost was weird. It's like, you're ruining my business. And we're like, we hope you have an awesome day. Right. Like it was bizarre. So I think some of these people like are nice, and that's even weirder. Like, I don't know if I prefer no customer response at all or like honey-coated fucking bomb droppings, right? Like, I mean,
honey-coated fucking bomb droppings suck, but I'll take them over the radio silence that I've been greeted with. I got kicked off of Tumblr. I got kicked off of Linktree. The only reason Linktree gave me my account back is because I kept saying lawyer up, and I kept saying my lawyer says that you need to provide, and I just kept saying my lawyer, my lawyer, my lawyer. But no, nothing's worse than radio silence.
Yeah. So guys, just so neither one of us are having this conversation like out of a state of like, poor me. Like we're both like over it and on to doing other things. But like, I think that the purpose for this conversation is like, what is the like? Do we?
Well, I'm sorry. For me, I think customer service is being deliberately weaponized as another chaos creation, fuckery, fragmentation, incoherence mechanism.
Right.
And I think we need to clue into it and call these like, I'm not bitching just to bitch, and it's not a poor me. I want us to take action. We need to
I don't feel like you're poor me.
And push back and say, no, I am a customer and I demand customer service. This is not okay. But we all acquiesce because we're so overwhelmed and we don't want whatnot. But like, because of that, they keep getting away with more and more. So I feel like we actually do need to speak up and demand service.
Yeah, I think you're right that they count on the overwhelm, and they count on this. Most people just being relieved that their account hasn't been like, the reason that they say you can't say someone else does it and right, like that's not an excuse, is because if it was, then suddenly those people would actually care. The other people that may have said the same sentence would care that you had your shit deleted, and then they'd have a problem, right? So it's like this very insidious model that is just like, and I've talked to somebody about like, maybe, and this is a hard thing for me to even like think about because I don't consider myself like a technologically inclined person, but after the thing I've been through this year and all the things I've had to do to try and sort it out and work around and thank you. Everybody has been like amazingly supportive and patient, and, the workarounds are not as smooth and easy as the beast systems technologies were, but everyone's been very loving and kind. So I feel perfectly well supported and not like I have anything to cry about, but it did show to me that there are huge holes in the market. Right. And and I feel like all the solutions that are being offered are not real solutions. Like there are companies out there and whatnot that don't censor and that don't, do some of these things. Unfortunately, a lot of their products aren't as well integrated into some of the distribution systems that we use and blah, blah, all this kind of stuff, right? And so like, I know exactly what needs to be created, right? But I'm not a technology person. So I would either have to go learn how to do this myself or go find someone to work with to do this, and then stop doing the thing that I'm already doing right now that I actually feel like is the thing that I'm good at and called to. But there's days when I'm like, would that actually be a better use of my time? Like, is it allowing 100 or 1,000 more people to have their say at the expense of me having mine for now, because I'm going to have to take time away so that something like this can be created? And I do think about that sometimes, right? Like I do think that might be something at some point I need to step away and do, is just create the thing that will be really the most helpful, because all the solutions that have been offered, like they have their high points and their low points and whatever, but there isn't one thing where it's like, okay, like this is what you do. This is the technological help that we make available for creators so that they can create and they don't have to worry about how they're going to get paid for how people are going to find them or any of that kind of stuff. Right.
I'm lobbying and I'm holding the vision for you for it to be a both and so instead, like if you could do both at the same time and just, magnetize the just right partner or team, right, and allot, a day or two a week or however many hours a day, because it would be a valuable service. And you and I have talked about it, from every possible angle. I won't bore our audience with it, but like, in terms of what we're dealing with as content creators, the perfect solution really does not exist. And you're very clear on all of the parameters that it needs to have. So I feel like if there was a way that you could do that and continue to make content, it would be a win-win-win-win-win.
So yes, I'm holding out for that as well, which is why I haven't done that yet, right? Because, but yeah, so, I think a lot of these things that we get into these emotional back and forths over, like I think maybe one of the new techniques also to start to employ is if I can't talk to a person, they actually don't need my business. And so starting to, even if eventually you end up giving them your business back, pulling back for a while and seeing what life is like without that.
Totally. Yes. I think that's a really strong stance to take.
Right.
I've started taking that stance. That's why I love my Pilates app and whatnot. And yeah, the more that we do that, right, those are dollars. Like there really is power there.
Because I think there's also a lot of things that we think we need that we don't actually need. And we're satisfied with some of these things that we don't actually need, and we fail to recognize certain things that we do actually need. And so we spend zero time seeking out things that we don't even know we actually need, but we really do, right? And so I'm just starting to, that day when I couldn't get the rental car and I canceled, it felt like the end of the world for a few minutes because I had so many plans, I had so many like errands and tasks and stuff. And I was just like, okay, like every completely gone, nothing. I'm just sitting at the house today. Maybe I'll get a workout in. I wasn't planning on one, and that's it. But like, it was fine. And as the day went on, I actually liked the way that I had just sort of, retreated and not continued to try and force the issue. Like I didn't actually need a rental car. I didn't actually need to do those things.
Don't you find that that's a little bit easier though, when we are out of town, when we are out of our normal environment and our normal flow? I think it's easier than to avail ourselves to like the natural flow. Whereas if you were at home, right, and you had like your day stacked with all your things, it might not have been quite as organic to slip into that. Like, okay.
I think it was a middle ground because like I was in LA and I still have lots of stuff there that is very home-like. Like if I had been in some other random city, then it would have been like exactly as you say. So I think this was like a 50-50, which is why it was like a great place to kind of, okay, I'm stepping back and I'm done with this. I'm not going to make any more phone calls. I'm not going to try any other things. I'm just going to be like, I'm just not going to have a rental car today. And I didn't apparently need it. Right. Yeah. And I suggest we start employing that tactic as well, because part of what's kept us so wrapped into this system is this idea that like, once we have something once, it means we need it all the time. Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm also starting to see that like, I had envisioned, as this began to unfold and accelerate, I was like, okay, there's going to come that moment where I'm going to step away from the marketplace. I'm going to step away from digital enslavement. And now I'm seeing it might not be because I'm forced out, because of being, the wrong blood type or the Nazi. It might just be a choice that I make because I can't stand this nonsense.
Right. Okay. So yeah, no, I agree. So I think this is a good place to sort of wrap. I know we had thought about talking about.
We talked about nothing we were actually going to talk about.
Right. So, well, we knew we were going to talk about the weaponization of customer service, but I thought that would take like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then we were going to talk about this, like you can ask Laura, really terrible, Majid Nawaz, Brett Weinstein interrupting each other thing.
Well, I think we can tie it in our second half because again, they're parallel propaganda.
Yeah. So if you'd like to hear our usual banter, we're going to move over into the supporter side where we are going to deconstruct or take a look at or interject and interrupt on this fascinating reflective conversation that David Fuller from Rebel Wisdom had on his podcast shortly after he announced he was ending his podcast. And Dani,
score one for Emily and Dani.
Right. And it actually, I'm very careful about thinking that we're the cause of things. But when I look at the comment section of his videos now compared to when I first started posting anti stuff there maybe 8 months ago or a year ago, it seems like that audience is on to him. And I think we've at least assisted in that effort. So
also the timing, it was only within a couple weeks of Word 60 coming out, which was our Consilience Project episode.
Right. Yeah. So I think there is some level of, and we're seeing some other little signs and symbols, like our favorite two have stopped allowing chat during their live streams on YouTube. I'll leave it to you to guess who those are. We're going to talk a little bit about, but we have an event. So just so people know, if you'd like to join us for the rest of this conversation, which we'll be talking about the reflections on the pandemic episode of Rebel Wisdom, you can join us at wordspodcast.locals.com. But we also would like to announce that we now have a premium supporter level on Locals, and that the premium supporter level will get you access to our monthly 2-hour group informed analysis experience events, where we're going to teach you guys how we do it, right? How the insanity and schizophrenia and whatever of each of our minds can be distilled down into a set of skills and tools that you can take with you to make sure you're never fooled by the propaganda. How did I describe that? Was that good?
You rocked it. You knocked it out of the park.
So we have selected the most magnificent piece of prismatic propaganda you
so good.
Ever imagine as the sort of topic or the object of our first affection for the event. So there's going to be information on how you can become a premium supporter on Locals if you'd like to join us for those experiences. They will be a live Zoom thing. It's not going to be broadcast, but they will be recorded for people who pay for it but aren't able to make it, and you'll be able to receive it that way. So information about all of that is down below. We're moving over to the other side. We will see you there. Anything else to say before we go?
Oh, I have space on my roster for 2 new coaching clients, Language of Healing, Empowered Badassery. Hit me up.
All righty. And I got stuff too. It's down there. All right. Bye.